What's going on, everybody? Gunnar here, and today I had an idea that I was super excited about and I just want to share it with you. So basically I have a friend. He's a gear fisherman, one of the best fishermen I know, and he wanted me to tie him up some small, about 3.5 inch Flashabou tubes for things like steelhead and walleye. And I tied this and I could not stop staring at it. I'm super excited. I think it'd make an absolute killer smallmouth bass fly. So I'm just going to show you guys how to do this. It's all Flashabou, really quick tie. We're going to tie it on a hook. This is an Ahrex size 2 curved Gammer's hook, and it's super simple. I'm going to show you the flash hackle dubbing brush and how to build it real quick because it takes about 2 minutes. And an announcement for, I guess, my website, my online store. I'm going to carry a few of these dubbing brush devices, the turbo spinners, and the wire that you need to build your brushes. So if anyone is interested in making your own, check out the link in the description, head over to my website, and I will probably have a bundle for everything, or I'll list them individually for whatever you guys need. Let's tie this guy. And let's first do the dubbing brush, because it's honestly 2 materials. We're going to have a Flashabou tail and a brush head. It's pretty slick, so check it out. So I'm doing this at a lower angle so that you guys can hopefully see everything. And what we have is the Stanfo device, we have the turbo spinner, and I'm going to use the size large uni dubbing brush wire. And to start, I'm just going to loop this. Not used to this. Twice in, spin that up, and run it down to the side. Now, the flash hackle is a blend. We have some really cool flash fibers in here from Hedron. We have some holographic gold, holographic pink, original Flashabou in pink, and then we have a material that's called dyed opal Flashabou, and we have pink dyed opal and a little bit of barred black over clear. Now this is at full length right now. I'm going to readjust some of these fibers, and basically what we're going to do, because of the size of the fly, we're going to end up using half length Flashabou and then quarter length Flashabou. Now we're going to put a slight taper into this, but because the materials are so short, the taper is going to be limited, so there's going to be a little bit of a trim job when we get to the fly. For this video, I'm just going to do the one section, but you can fit about 3 in this size. So I'm first going to cut this in half. That's going to be our front section. Then I'm going to cut the remaining half into half, so we're going to have a quarter length left, and that'll be the head. Going to come in with some very standard dubbing brush wax, run this over, hit the spot that's going to be over top of my Flashabou and drop it down, lock it in place, get that good to go. Now you can come in with a bodkin and your fingers, gently distribute this. You don't have to be too picky about it. But to optimize a flash hackle, you want each fiber to have its own tie-in point. You don't really want the fibers stacked on top of each other. This is going to get you the best, most even random distribution and the best silhouette. And then we're simply going to drop the table and literally spin this for about 5 seconds. Maybe a little more. Now you can come in and check this. Those aren't going anywhere, they're not pulling out, they're not breaking, you didn't spin it too tight, right? And we barely compress this. The Flashabou is really delicate and it doesn't take a lot to secure it. I'm coming in very gently so I don't hurt the Flashabou, brush out any trap loops, and you're good to go. You just come in, cut that free, and now we have a micro Flashabou flash hackle. Cool, cool. So we got our dubbing brush built. I'm going to come over, trim that free and trim this free. and I left just a little bit of the ends for my tie-in and tie-off points. And basically we're just going to throw some thread on here. Didn't quite matter which you prefer. Wrap that down to the top of the bend. Now this is a really nice short shank, wide gap hook, keeping the hook right up front. This is a small fly, right? A 3.5 inch bait fish. It's honestly about as small as I would ever go. And when a fish comes up and eats this, you know, white bass, smallmouth bass, largemouth bass, perch, whatever it is, the fly is just going to disappear. So I quite like having this right up front. What's really nice about these curved Gammarus is they have a really big hook eye. So if you were to do an extension with, say, titanium for wiggle tail rigs and all of that, you can easily thread this eye, pinch it back, and have plenty of room to be able to tie onto your hook without any issues. So the tailing material is Magnum Flashabou in the color opal. And basically you don't need a lot of strands, but we're going to treat this similar to the synthetic tails on Mega Jerks and the synthetic tail that was on the Keel Jerk. And so we're going to take this Magnum at full length, fold that in half. This is a little bit staticky. I'm going to cut that in half, and then I'm going to quarter it, and that's going to be the length of the tail. It ends up being maybe 4 inches. A few of the fibers it could be about 4 inches, but the bulk of the fly is around 3.5 inches. Really kind of perfect for your classic warm water size. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this, put a taper into it, maybe 2 inches of taper, and we're going to tie this in 30-70. And this is going to build our short belly, long back, because the dubbing brush kind of loses that control, right? The dubbing brush being distributed 360 degrees, and I'm going to try to keep this right on top of the hook shank. The dubbing brush being built 360 degrees kind of loses that tapered effect. And I'm just going to draw these fibers back. Now you can hit that with some super if you're interested, some super glue. I'm going to come in, shorten up some of the top fibers, just about there. And so that was maybe, I don't know, I haven't tied this fly enough, but probably 6 strands that were all doubled in half, which is why when you cut it in half and then half again, you get quite a nice thick translucent tail. Coming into the brush, I like to tie the tall end back and it palmers up short. So you're building your forward-leaning taper into your head design. And the only kind of principle of the fly is the push of water from the density of the Flashabou. You're also going to have that fish mask obviously moving a little bit of water as well. But it's a... Ooh, scorched my thread there on my dubbing brush wire. I'm going to take this, bend that off to the side, hit it with some gator grips, and I'm going to wet this Flashabou to really help tame it down so that I can manipulate it as I palmer this forward. But as I get towards the head, my wraps get a little bit tighter. I'm going to start stacking them on top of each other so I can fill up that fish mask. And we're going to use a size 6mm fish mask from the Flyman Fishing Company. I'm going to tie this off. Come in, catch that. So this is literally, you know, a 2 material fly plus a head. Really slick and simple. Go behind and front, bend that wire down, make sure you don't impale yourself on it, they can be quite sharp. And then I'm going to finger whip finish, just move my hook in the vise there a little bit. And that is basically the finished fly. Now, because we did half and quarter, we don't really get the perfect silhouette and taper that you would normally be able to achieve with a full-size flash shackle. The larger flash shackles, because the materials are longer, you're able to give them more taper and they bleed better into one another. But in the small sizes, we have a harder time doing that. So I'm going to come in, once I get my fish mask on this, I'm going to come in and kind of help bleed those tapers into one another. We're going to make the quarter a little bit more uneven, and then we're going to shorten up some of the haft fibers like that. So now that we got our mask on there, I'm going to come in with a little bit of monofilament tying thread. Going to put a very sparse thread dam at the head of this, just to give that mask a little bit of pressure and to give the UV resin something to bind the mask to, so that those two are up on top of each other and touching. Make sure that mask is seated correctly, make sure it's in the dead center, make sure it's not tilted up or tilted down, you like the way it looks. And then I'm going to come in with some UV Diamond Fine from Deer Creek, and again I'm going to hit the open angles of the mouth and let that get soaked up into that mask. And then we're going to hit the edge of that, making sure it doesn't cover up the hook eye, and if it does, you can just run a hackle stem up through there and clean that off. Now I'm going to come in with some Deer Creek 6mm eyes. And just use some gel super glue to secure those, and then I'm going to fill in the eye in the mask with Deer Creek's UV Diamond Fine resin. Probably do this in the vise, but what you can do is you can hold this hook in your vise, bring these tailing materials back, and just put a taper into these wings, right? Shorten up that head a little bit. And really just trying to make sure you have a nice bullet shape. It's going to be tough to get to the underside of the hook a little bit. I'm not doing anything too fancy here. Booyah. And that is, I don't know what it is. Let me think of a name, and then I'll refilm that last 5-second section. But it seems so cool to me. It's just a little Flashabou baitfish. I don't know. I really like that super opal core coming off the tail, giving you your length. You got the fibers going from short to long, giving you your taper. It's on a nice wide gap hook right up front. Eyes, fish mask, quick tie, dubbing brush. It's just a slick little fly, and you can make some really cool textures by the infinite combinations of Flashaboos. You know, the holographics, the standards, the magnums, the new, you know, the dyed opals, the barred. You can come up with some really cool textures to these baitfish. Quick update for you guys. Got to tie a few of these now, and basically one of the easiest ways to trim this is to remove it from the vise and let gravity, this might be hard to show you, but let gravity draw those fibers down that are kind of outliers, and it gives you a lot more consistency, and your vise kind of gets out of your way so that you can trim that up and create a nice silhouette. See what I'm saying? The other thing I wanted to show you is if you wanted to make this weighted, these size 2 Ahrex curved Gammer's hooks fit perfectly with a size large brass cone head, and that 6mm fish mask fits perfectly over that cone head. So you can do the hidden cone head trick that's on Trout Nugget XLs with this bug if you want a jiggy flash fly. You can hide a cone head. The other one I did, I made the brush a little bit too sparse but you can also do the baitfish helmets, baitfish heads from Flyman as well, and this is the size small medium, which fits perfectly. It's a little tight over the eye, but the small mediums are my favorite size for basically slipping it under without giving it too much of a jig. So those are a few variations that you can do. And one thing I wanted to mention is the silhouette of the fly is basically what's going to control the action, right? Two different kinds of flies. There's flies that work for you, and then there's flies that you kind of have to work. But the ability to fish a single hooked fly is it takes quite a little bit of skill. So you know, this is kind of a straight retrieve. The action's based on the silhouette and the way it's going to push water. You know, kind of reduction of a taper is going to reduce the water friction. Is going to help those back fibers kick a little bit more. But something you really need to do with a single hooked fly like this, it's really all about the retrieve. It's all about the speed of retrieve, the variation of the retrieve. You know, you have to be able to cast it and swim it, because the more simple a fly gets, kind of the reduction of action you're going to get. You know, if you have a great fly and it matches the hats perfectly and fish are on it, but you don't deliver it, you don't cast it, you don't hunt it up, you don't read the water, it's not going to do you any good, right? You have to fish where the fish are, and you take a fly like this and you just kind of like cast it out and you're like, well, good luck. You know, you got to pick your seams, you got to pick your water apart, and you got to hunt this fly. It's a very simple fly. It's just going to dart, right? It's not going to it's not a jerk bait, it's not going to articulate, it's not going to swim. It's just a little dart. It's a little minnow fly. So you have to be able to swim that fly. You have to be able to provide that action, and the variations and the change up of cadence, and maybe you dead drift it for a second and then you twitch it out. Like, you have to be able to hunt, and that takes time on the water, that takes experience. And I just want to make that clear, because I didn't really go into why it would work, and it's because the fly's not really going to work unless you make it work, right? That's kind of one of the things of I don't know, growing in the sport is your ability to take something and make it fishy, because it's very simple, and it's really just a visual stimulus. You smack it down, it's really flashy, you strip it twice and it gets smacked, right? It's not a super ultra realistic, you know, kind of bug that's going to articulate around and move. So you have to be able to move this, and I kind of just wanted to make that clear. So thanks for watching. Hopefully you found that little trim job, just turning it over and letting gravity pull the longer fibers away from the fly to create your silhouette. And enjoy. I'm calling it the flashbang, by the way, like the grenade, like flashbang out, you know what I'm saying? Like, every time you cast it, you'd be like, flashbang out. Maybe not, I don't know. Do whatever you want.